Now we're going to have a look at what's grabbing the headlines around the world. Lots of focus on Greece. Of course, Stephen just mentioning it there. Talks between Athens and its Eurozone creditors have collapsed just days before a final deadline for Greece to unlock that 7.2 billion in bailout funds it needs to avoid a catastrophic debt default. Closer and closer to the wire. It's the same old phrases, but it's still the same story.
Seems like we've been talking about this scenario just about every week now, but this is it, supposedly. According to Bild, that's a German tabloid, the final curtain in the Greek debt drama seems about to fall. Now, what's interesting is this is the Greek finance minister, Yanis Varoufakis, who actually gave an interview to Bild that came out yesterday. It's getting a lot of attention in the press today. Now, he rules out a Grexit from the Eurozone in this interview. He says that's not the sensible solution for this debt crisis. The only way to move forward is a debt restructuring, but he puts a lot of pressure on the German Chancellor Angela Merkel. What you can see this quote here, it says, "Miss Merkel must lead the way," and indeed a lot of papers today are focusing on the German Chancellor. If we take a look at the front page of the Wall Street Journal today, they also say that Merkel is being tested here as this Greek crisis comes to a head.
And you pulled out a couple of cartoons, haven't you, which focus on events in Greece?
Absolutely. First of all, one in the New York Times by Shapat. You can see here, it's a tricky situation for the European Union. European leaders it's not clear whether or not they have a plan. You can see Miss Merkel there saying, we don't have a plan B for Greece. And there's another Euro deputy there saying, we do have a plan D, however, D stands for default. There's another great cartoon today in Ekaterineni. That's a Greek paper. What you can see here is one little labyrinth that seems like they're just about to get out of. We're very close. It's about time. I'm exhausted. But if you take a look, that little labyrinth only leads into a much bigger labyrinth. It looks like quite a nightmare. I think this is something we're going to be talking about for some time.
They always sum it up so well in the cartoons, don't they? We're going to move stateside now. Papers focusing on the former Florida Governor Jeb Bush, we've been telling you about, of course, who's officially thrown his hat into the ring for the 2016 presidential election.
That's right. Now, it's not a complete shocker. We did see this coming, but it is a very big deal. Lots of papers are focusing on this. The editorial in the Washington Post is focusing on the fact that there's one thing that Bush really can't explain, and that is a very personal detail, his last name, of course. Of course, his father and his brother were both president before him, but despite this very heavy family baggage, he has a very good shot at winning the nomination for the Republican Party, according to the Washington Post. He's a strong candidate. He's a strong conservative, and he also seems like one of the only Republican candidates who really seems interested in governing. And so voters should not just judge him on his name. You can see here, Jeb Bush is much more than his name.
And the British paper, The Independent, agreeing with that analysis.
Absolutely. On their front page, they have a photo of Jeb Bush saying, "Don't call me Bush." And in their editorial, they agree that Jeb Bush is a very strong candidate, specifically because the race for the White House could really come down to who wins the Hispanic vote. And one of Jeb Bush's strong suits is that not only is he fluent in Spanish, he is married to a woman who was born in Mexico, and he has a degree in Latin American studies. So if Bush, he can indeed take the White House if he makes his genuine appeal to Hispanic voters count. And this editorial says that perhaps Hillary Clinton will want to start learning a few Spanish phrases over the weeks to come.
Maybe a little late. You never know, though. Let's stay in the States for the next one. The paper's also continuing to focus on this woman, Rachel Dolezal, a civil rights leader in the middle of a firestorm, really, over accusations that she's been misrepresenting herself as black.
That's right. This is quite an incredible story that went viral on Friday. Now, yesterday, she unapologetically resigned from her position of president of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People's chapter in Spokane, Washington. Now, you can read more about this in the New York Times. What's interesting is her resignation comes as a past discrimination suit has come to light. Now, this was back in 2002. She reportedly sued Howard University. Howard University is a historically black university in Washington, D.C., so on the other side of the country. Now, she sued this university for discriminating against her in part for being white. Now, this is yet another detail that's probably going to fan the flames of what's already turned into quite a heated discussion about race, identity, cultural appropriation, and you can read about it more in Slate as well that talks about her truth. According to this article, the most disturbing claims aren't about her advancing herself, but about her victimization.
Does go on and on, that story, doesn't it? Finally, a word about exploration and Mars.
That's right. Now, we've talked a lot about the Mars One project, this incredible project that wants to see a first human settlement on Mars in 2025. Mars One is actually a non-profit organization, but it's interesting because it seems like bigger space agencies are also interested in setting up colonies on Mars. There's a very interesting piece in The Independent today that talks about a project that was financed by NASA. Now, back in the autumn, they bought 6 scientists an 8-month all-expenses trip to Hawaii.
Oh,
there was a little catch,
okay.
though, Stuart.
Yeah.
They had to spend those 8 months cooped up together in what they've called a cramped zone, a dome rather,
Right.
on the side of a volcano. Now, they were cramped up together because essentially NASA wanted to explore the psychological and physical effects of being isolated like that, and cramped up with 6 other nerds, as they call them. Now, essentially, they wanted to see if they would develop cabin fever.
Yeah.
The results are good, though. According to this article, none of them developed
Really?
cabin fever. It was
Thought
very
they all
tricky,
would.
though, because one of them was trying to learn how to play the ukulele, and it was a very cramped up position. But all this bodes quite well for space exploration, according to The Independent.
Imagine what it would have been if it had been a violin.
Or the drums.
Or the drums, exactly. We love the violin when it's played well. When it's being practiced, it can be a little harsh, should we say. Flo, thanks a lot. Flo Vilmano, summing up the international papers for us.